My name is Amanda, I'm 28, and yes, my marriage crashed and burned in the most dramatic way possible. But before anyone casts me as the villain, let me make one thing clear. Maybe it needed to happen. Maybe I was suffocating in a life that looked perfect on paper, but felt empty every single day. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get into it. I was married to Ethan for 5 years. On the surface, he was the responsible one, always thinking about the future, about saving money, about building stability, and I went along with it, thinking maybe security would eventually feel like love. Spoiler, it didn't. It started unraveling during what was supposed to be a relaxing family vacation. I had suggested we go to the beach someplace with nightlife and actual fun, but Ethan insisted we stay with his sister, Claire, in her painfully perfect suburban home, the kind of place where everything smells like lavender. The kids don't eat sugar, and judgment hangs in the air like heavy perfume. Claire needed a laptop for work, and Ethan offered his old one. When they hit a tech snag, I handed over an old USB drive I had lying around. I barely remembered what was on it. It had once belonged to my ex, Jason, and I had kept it for sentimental reasons. There were old photos, some personal memories, things from a time when I felt alive, desired, passionate. Ethan gave me a look when I offered it. He asked if I was sure, like I was handing over classified files. I laughed it off. He was always suspicious, always asking questions he never wanted real answers to, but I didn't think twice until I saw his face later that evening. He'd gone through the USB and whatever he found changed everything. I could see it in his eyes: confusion, betrayal, hurt, but all I felt was rage. How dare he dig into my private life and then act wounded by what he found? These were memories from before him, before I became the wife he wanted me to be. That night, he confronted me, angry, accusatory, asking detailed questions about what he'd seen, about things I'd done with Jason that I hadn't done with him. I snapped. I asked what kind of man watched old intimate videos of his wife and then grilled her like a detective. He told me he felt betrayed. I told him he was controlling, that he was shaming me for having a past. And Ethan had always been intimidated by me, by the fact that I had lived before him, loved before him, experienced things he couldn't handle. He wanted the illusion of a confident woman, but not the reality of one. From there, things spiraled. He started watching me closely. Every time we were intimate, I could feel him analyzing every move, comparing me to what he'd seen. The air between us became heavy with unspoken expectations. I started to pull away, and then I reached out to Jason. At first it was just a talk. I needed to feel understood. I needed to talk to someone who had seen the version of me that wasn't dimmed down to fit a life I never really wanted. Jason remembered that woman, and talking to him reminded me that she still existed. We started texting, just casual conversations, but soon the familiar spark came roaring back. Jason made me feel seen in a way Ethan never had. He remembered details. He asked about my dreams. He told me I was still the most exciting woman he'd ever been with. And for the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Ethan, of course, noticed the shift. My phone was glued to my hand. I was smiling more. He became even more controlling, questioning everything, desperate for answers I wasn't giving. I told him he was paranoid, that I had the right to talk to whoever I wanted. But inside, I knew I was slipping away from him. Eventually, Jason and I met in person. It was supposed to be in a center coffee to catch up. But the second I saw him, I felt the kind of rush that had been missing from my life for so long. That coffee turned into dinner, and dinner turned into something more, something inevitable. Lying beside Jason that night, I felt clarity. I wasn't cheating. I was reclaiming a version of myself I'd been forced to bury for years. The affair continued for weeks. I lied. I made excuses. I slipped out when Ethan wasn't looking. I didn't feel guilty. I felt alive. Jason and I began planning a future together. He talked about moving, starting fresh, building a life that actually felt exciting. Ethan sensed it. He suggested therapy. I laughed. What could a therapist fix when the foundation was already rotten? Eventually, a mutual friend saw me with Jason and told Ethan everything. He confronted me, expecting tears or denial. Instead, I gave him the truth. Yes, I had an affair. Yes, I'd been seeing Jason. And then I laid out every reason why how Ethan had failed to see me, failed to love me the way I needed, failed to make me feel like I mattered. He said the marriage was over. And I agreed. I moved in with Jason, confident, even proud of the decision I'd made. I posted online about choosing happiness and not settling. I felt like I'd won, like I'd taken back control of my life. But then Jason changed. 3 months in, he started pulling away, said things were moving too fast, that our connection had been about the thrill, not compatibility, that I was too intense, too emotional, too much. Then, one night, he ended it, just like that. He said he could unhandle the pressure of being the man I'd left my husband for, that I needed more than he could give, that he didn't want that kind of responsibility. I was devastated, furious. I destroyed everything for a man who never actually wanted the full weight of what I offered. The divorce settlement was a disaster. Ethan had proof of the affair. I lost any leverage I had. I had to move back in with my parents at 28 years old. Meanwhile, Ethan thrived, got promoted, started working out, found someone new, and she was everything. I wasn't sweet, simple, easy to love. He became the man I'd always wanted him to be, just not for me. My dating life became a mess. Men sensed my bitterness, my instability. Nothing stuck. Nothing felt right. And still I couldn't admit I'd been wrong. I blamed Ethan, blamed Jason, blamed everyone but myself. I told people Ethan was boring, Jason was immature, my friends were I convinced myself I had been right to choose passion over stability, that I was too much woman for most men to handle. And now, 3 years later, I'm still living at home, still working a job I hate, still scrolling through photos of Ethan's new life with a woman who appreciates what I never could, and still telling myself I made the right decision, because if I admit I didn't, what does that make me? A woman who blew up her entire life chasing a feeling that never lasted. But no, I can't go there. So if that makes me the villain in everyone's story, so be it. At least I chose me, even if it costs me everything.